Joker's cards is finally revealed. Who will survive? That wicked shit is back, and it's just this way at the Dim Carnival.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dim Carnival. I'm Bill.
I'm Steve. And I'm Ryan.
And guys, I have good news because we made it.
We did it!
Looks like we made it to the first installment of Hell's Pit, The Wraith, Hell's Pit. That's the full title.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
We did make it, but you know what else we made it to? It's not only did we make it to Hell's Pit, but this episode is also another milestone in the Dim Carnival legacy of podcasts.
We've got a new mascot.
Oh yeah, that happened too, but no, it's episode 69.
Hell yeah. There could be no better episode for this to be this episode.
Episode 69.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be extra sexy.
Oh yeah, there's nothing sexier than the songs we'll be talking about on this episode.
Oh, good lord.
So, just a
programming note for romance. Yep.
A programming note for everyone listening out there. We had hoped to get through Hell's Pit because we were going to take a hiatus after covering this album. That's partially correct because we're going to cover these 5 songs, and then I'm having a child this week, so we will be taking a hiatus. Not sure when we'll be back. While I am gone, I encourage Steve and Ryan to drop little mini episodes or nuggets or anything they want to talk about. If they want to do some side albums or side projects or little one-offs or talk about a specific track in particular that they've been thinking about, I encourage them to do so. But the 3 of us will not be here covering track by track Hell's Pit for a little while after this episode. So apologies to everyone. We almost did it.
Who knows what's going to happen up there? Well,
Imagine if we hadn't skipped all those albums.
Right. By the time this goes up, you will have been a father born.
Yeah, well, you don't have to pull apart the kimono quite so far.
I just assume that, yeah.
So, on the Wraith Shangri-La, Violent J says, if you really want to see the fucking Devil's exhibit, the shit is called Hell's Pit. Run out and get it. But the irony is that if you were listening to Shangri-La when it came out, you couldn't run out and get Hell's Pit. Now, thanks to the miracle of time, you can.
Well, what if the closest record store is really far away?
Gave this place a geographical oddity.
It's 2 years from everywhere.
So the Hell's Pit second half of the Six Jokers card, the companion piece to Shangri-La, actually did not come out for 2 years until August 31st, 2004, which is strange because August only has 30 days in it. August 31st, 2004, this album was released. It was released with a DVD. There were 2 versions. Right. One of them had a live concert, and one of them had a 12-minute music video for the song Real Underground Baby, and featured a short 3D film for the song Bowling Balls.
Yeah, Bowling Ball.
Mm-hmm. Shot in glorious high definition. Guys, did you know that this album went to number 1 on the top independent albums chart?
I did know that. I read it today.
And
I didn't previously,
It peaked at number 12 on the Billboard 200. So, and that's back when people were selling albums.
Right.
Still, 2004.
A lot of people bought this record.
TRL was probably still a thing then.
Yes, I got to imagine so.
Anyway, and one other bit of news here is that there was a companion piece to this album released in 2018 called Hell's Cellar. They found 9 Violent J recordings from the Hell's Pit recording sessions.
Wow.
That they didn't know about.
Wow. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. Here we go.
So I'm sure we'll cover that at some point.
Wow.
But so I was a little bit surprised when I was looking at the credits for this today, because I assumed this was yet another of the 15 Mike P albums that were released within the 2 years of each other. But actually, Mike P produced about half of this album, and the other half was split up between Isham and Fritz the Cat. So this is, I think, officially the first time Fritz the Cat has produced ICP tracks, because normally he's just doing Twisted shit.
Oh, interesting. Oh yeah, I guess you're. Yeah,
he did some stuff on Black Rain, but this is the first time he's just getting in there with ICP and chopping it up.
Awesome, man.
So let's talk about the intro. If you haven't listened to the intro, go ahead and take a listen right now. Guys, well, I mean, sorry, I didn't skip anything in the preamble here that you guys wanted to cover particularly, did you? Were we going to talk about our individual journeys with this album or whatever?
Well, I think, just the only thing that I wanted to say is that, like, just in listening to these songs, I was pretty, impressed to see that Fritz the Cat had produced some tracks on here. Most of the tracks we're going to listen to this week, because on previous records, like, I like Fritz the Cat well enough, and I think I said some pretty good things about him, or looking forward to more stuff that he's done. But on previous or the most recent records, I've liked Mike P a little bit better. Yeah. And so I like the music so much on this. When I went back, I was like, oh wow, these are Fritz the Cat songs. Because spoilers, nice. I actually really like the music on a lot of these tracks.
Nice. Yeah, I think the music's really good, and we'll get there.
Right.
Yeah.
So Steve, I bought this album when it came out. I think I bought it the week it came out, and I listened to it, I think, once, and then I didn't listen to it again. I listened to it once. I watched the Bowling Balls video. Thought the Bowling Balls video was like real bad and very boring and dumb. And they spent a lot of money on it apparently. But I listened to it like once, and that was it. And I was like, this is not what I'm interested in at all. And I didn't listen to it anymore. And that's it. And this is when I'm listening to it again, is now, 15 years later.
Yeah.
What was your experience with this album?
I bought it when it was new as well, and I was living with one of my roommates I was in a band with at the time, and so it was like this fun place where we're like kind of partying a lot and doing lots of band stuff and lots of people hanging out, and everyone hated ICP, but I got one guy alone aside that was a good friend of mine. He was a straight edge dude, and he hated ICP, and I was like, look, I just got this album. They just made a movie, or not a movie, but they have a video. And I go, it's probably going to be really bloody. And he loved horror movies. I was like, let's just watch this. I've never seen this. I've never heard this song. And then we watched it, and it was embarrassing to show it to someone like that. I probably shouldn't have done it like that. I remember we laughed a lot, and he was just like, God, I hate these guys so much. How can you like this? And I was like, I know this is awful, but I still kind of like it. So I didn't listen to this album again after that. I tried it a couple times, but what I ended up doing was I know that there's at least 2 songs off this album that I put in my like iPod rotation on my big long playlist, and it was Truly Alone and Bowling Balls. And so I actually like those 2 songs, although my reaction to listening to Truly Alone this time through, I had forgotten about the song for so long, so I probably hadn't listened to it in like 10 years or more. And so I remember being like, oh, I love this song. I love the music. I love the way it sounds. I love the way, I'm getting too far, but yeah. And so anyhow, so I know 2 songs off this album. Nice. And I also agreed that with Ryan that as I was listening to like these 5 tracks, I was like, wow, the music is way better than I remember it being.
For sure, yeah.
So I don't know why I didn't like it back in those days.
I know why I didn't like it is because I loved Shangri-La so much, and I loved Wizard of the Hood, and like they were in the Shiny Diamonds era for like 2 years, and I was used to it, and that's like what I wanted to hear when I wanted to listen to ICP, and just like this is so much a departure from that. I mean, like by design, it's supposed to be the exact opposite of it.
Yeah.
And it's so dark and so just like, it just wasn't a space I wanted to be in. I wasn't interested in being in that space at all. And so I just like, I listened to it and I was like, yeah, I'm not really feeling this vibe at all. So that was it for me.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the intro. The intro starts with cackling and some beeps, some squeeps, and some creeps, and like some disemboweling, some backwards talking, more backwards talking,
fire crackles,
someone singing in a southern voice, and then a bunch of fire, and then Violent J says, "Welcome to hell. Why did you choose this?" And I like that as the intro to this album because, I think this intro is very good at setting the tone for the album. It's very evocative. It's very chaotic. It's just like a bunch of insanity and like nightmarishness, and that's what you would expect to encounter in hell. So my take on this album, so if you'll recall, my take on Shangri-La was that, you know, it's sort of supposed to be a little glimpse of everything that you'll find in Shangri-La. And a contrary reading to that we discussed was that it was heaven on earth and just like having a good time, and everyone was hanging out and experiencing just like the best time of their lives, hanging out with each other and just like experiencing their own personal nirvana just right here. My take on this album is that it is actually supposed to be in hell. Like, we are supposed to be in hell. This is Hell's Pit. And these are stories of people that you encounter in Hell's Pit and how they got here, or why they're supposed to be here, or what you'll encounter in hell, or what hell will be like for you. Like, that's my take on this album. And so his Welcome to Hell, Why Did You Choose This is sort of like a judgment on people of like, why did you make these decisions in life? Why did you feel the need to end up here? Because this is where you're going to be forever now. But also, like, on a metatextual level, I like him asking, like, when I put on the CD to listen to it the first time, like, I was sort of dreading listening to it because I had such non-memories and bad memories of, like, listening to it the first time. And I liked to think, like, Violent J is like, why did you choose this album? You could have listened to Shangri-La.
Right.
Because
That's so
by
funny.
Jay's own admission, he hates this era in his life. Like, he hated making this album. He hated the negativity that it brought. And like, this is where his autobiography ends, because like, he wasn't prepared to talk about what a bummer this time was for him in his life.
So I think that's pretty interesting because leading up to this album, the little bits that we've mentioned or speculated about it was that what you just said about that they had a lot of excitement about the Raining Diamonds era and put so much positive energy into Shangri-La, and then realize that they have to like get into a new dark place for this Hell's Pit album, which is really just like fan service. And so I agree with that metatextual reading, but I think also on the surface, I just read it as pretty simply like, we laid it all out for you. If you act right, then here's all this cool stuff that awaits you. And so he's like, well, not everybody makes it to Shangri-La though. So like, what are the reasons that a person would end up in Hell's Pit?
Sure.
And that's like what I'm assuming the rest of the album is about. I actually didn't listen ahead from beyond this week's track, so.
Right. And that's basically what I mean. But like, to me, it's very similar to, there's a song on Fearless Fate Fury. I think it's called the Night of Red Rum or something, where it's like two guys in hell talking to each other, and like one guy's like, well, how'd you end up here? And then he tells him the story. And I think that the songs on this album that aren't like actively taking place in hell are the tales of people explaining how they got to hell.
Yeah, but I could also see how other people could go back and view it the way they viewed Shangri-La, at least in the songs where they're here on Earth, because the people in some of these songs, except for maybe C.P.K, that I've listened to so far anyways, like what they're going through is like a hell on Earth as well, you know?
Sure, but I also, like, at least in the songs that we've listened to this week, even when they're on Earth, in none of these songs are they supposed to be Jay and Shaggy.
Yes, I understand that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I was just saying I could still see it being taken in a more it's like layered. It can be hell on Earth and it can be like story. I agree with you ultimately that this is just people how they got to hell and stuff. I'm just throwing out there that I could see other people also interpreting it in another way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's some backwards talk, some reverse talking, which if you listen to it like chronologically in the ICP releases, in the track that precedes this, which would be the last track on Shangri-La, they say no more reverse talking. But they do quite a bit of it on this album. But it's what the person says is, from every part of the world, the bishops of the church have assembled.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first line.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's something that is attributed to Violent J, which I couldn't really understand. Something about bringing back something that was stolen 4 years ago. And then it's like a preacher or something that says, everybody have some Jesus in your life.
Mm.
And so I was thinking and then there's listening to the other tracks that we have to get through to this week. There's a running theme of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so I was trying to think of what was going on at this time that could have influenced so many tracks on this album. And it was pretty clearly, this album came out in 2004. In 2003 is when the Boston Globe won the Pulitzer for their expose that had come out in 2002 of the Catholic Church. And all of that business.
Wow.
And so I kind of feel like, we speculated that Jay would have had he's talked about having a difficult time getting back into that headspace, but having something like that be in the media, that could be something that is easy for him to focus on to kind of build up some of these angry feelings. And maybe that could be why there's so much influence, at least in these first tracks that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very important historical context. Yeah. And there is a lot of religion all over this album and a lot of faith references. But I think the largest reason for that, I feel, is because you literally can't have hell without religion.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist without religion.
Right.
So.
There's a music sample in this one. Actually, I think
what is
music.
That?
The music is from it's a song called Awakening by a band called Midnight Syndicate off of their album Vampire. That's Vampire with a Y.
They sound like a real cool band.
It's you hear the music, right? It's pretty good.
Yeah. That's the one where the guy's singing like, you ain't nothing but a...
No. It's like the actual. It's like like that.
Oh, I see.
Whatever, like strings, like big orchestral music.
I get you. All right, shall we move along?
Yeah, it's Walk Into the Darkness.
Okay, let us do it. If you haven't listened to Walk Into the Darkness, go ahead and take a listen.
Aim your forehead and burst. I'm evil, fires in my sky. I see no diamonds, it's true. Aim for your gut and blow your breakfast out behind you. I'm one with the darkness. A place for those who chose to give a fuck less.
Guys, just before, because I forgot, so the packaging of this album, there's a slipcase with a painting, actually an extremely cool painting of Jay and Shaggy, wherein they're back to the black and white makeup because we're in Hell's Pit. And it says, "That wicked shit, who can survive Hell's Pit?" But then if you open up if you take it out of the slipcase, you've got the Wraith in front of on Shangri-La. He was in front of a blue cloudy sky, and now he's in front of just a wall of fire. And in Shangri-La, on Shangri-La, he was holding his hand up, his palm up, and it's sort of like he's like reaching out to take your hand. And this one, he's holding his hand with the palm facing down. And then the crow's facing the other direction on his shoulder. But the really interesting thing that I noticed about the differences is that the Shangri-La Wraith has horns and the Hell's Pit Wraith does not.
Whoa. I never noticed that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Just something really interesting. I'm sure that there's something to investigate there, but we can ponder on that for until next time.
The only one that I knew was his hand, which is like if his palm is up, then you're going up. If it's down, you're going down.
Yeah, that makes sense. But like, it just seems like in Shangri, like the palm up is more of it seems more like I'm reaching out to like.
Right,
like
you're like, I'm like lifting you up or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
And this one's like, I'm pushing you down.
Yeah.
You get away, bad.
Get thee behind me. So yeah, Walk Into the Darkness, which has got Legs Diamond on it, playing the guitar, and this one is produced by Mike P. And this will be the last Mike P track we talk about this week. So, guys, Walk Into the Darkness. Cut the head off a mule, guys.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So I actually dig the music. I actually really like the chorus, which is an odd thing to say about an ICP song usually for me. I right off the bat, Violent J's first verse is rough. It was hard to get through just because of the context of what he was saying he was doing. Shaggy's not so bad comparatively. So after I got through the first verse, I can say that I like the song. After that, there was a Mark McGuire reference in it. I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, you know.
For me, the tough verse was the third one.
I mean, there's not great parts about all of them.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. I actually ultimately I did enjoy listening to all of the songs this week, and I didn't anticipate or expect that I would like this album at all. But it's kind of like, well, I guess my general thoughts are that I feel like they have been making more of a move towards having theatrics be a part of their albums. And I guess is how I want to say it. And not that they haven't always had that, but I just feel like this is an album that you like really sit down and listen to, right? It's not like something that you just put on.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I feel like they paid a lot of attention to the tone, and they did put a lot of effort into these songs, to make them feel a certain way. But I feel like there's that special quality of ICP, that like spirit or soul or something is kind of missing a little bit. So I really like the decisions that they made on all of these songs. And I like the way that they go. There's content in everything that, I don't like as much. And I just ultimately am going to chalk that up to like, it's supposed to be a dark album.
Yeah. What I do appreciate is that if this is what they're going for, I do appreciate that they're not ever real. Like, there are some funny parts, but they're not, you can tell that they're holding back, and they're trying to not make it funny as much as possible. And they're trying to not make shit sound cool as much as possible. Because they've done this subject matter their whole careers, but they've proven that they're adept at like, well, I can make you laugh with this concept, or I can make this concept sound like appealing. And I feel like they work really hard to not do either of those things for the most part.
Yeah.
And that lends to it sounding so sinister and missing that soul that you're talking about. Like, that's what I think is missing from this album that is in all their other albums, is like, they're clever, they're funny, they're really inventive, they're innovative, they have a capacity to connect and make people feel like they're not excluded when they're outcasts, but they're working hard to make sure that everything on this album is like not fun, not funny, not cool, not making you go like clever. It's just straight up like, this is hell, and this is what awaits you, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like the theme of this song is just that it's different types of evilness.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever. Like, I don't know. I didn't really feel there's not really a story or a narrative, a through thread.
Well, I think it's giving people a glimpse of what hell is going to be like for people who
Cutting head off
who
mules.
chose to give a fuck less.
Right.
I do
So-
also like that they refer to Satan as the witch.
That part, okay, that was one question that I had. I wasn't sure if that was what was going on there. Well, because then yeah, okay. So the first verse, Violent J does a school shooting,
Mm-hmm.
and then second verse,
Riding a
Shaggy,
mule on his head.
right? Shaggy, which is an interesting choice. Shaggy is watching TV.
Sartorially, you mean?
Shaggy's watching TV, sees a televangelist, and he wants to go down there, but he doesn't even. He just goes and starts shooting up a funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Sure.
Someone he doesn't know.
Right? Do televangelists, do they preside over a funeral?
I mean, if they're ordained pastors, so yeah, I bet like if someone televangelists, a lot of them at some point had their own churches, so I mean they do all the same stuff that regular pastors would do. So yeah, I can see them. I could see them, but I wouldn't. I thought he was just like. My assumption was he sees a televangelist on TV and then goes and just kills the first one he saw, just kills the first preacher he saw who happens to be, presiding over a funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I don't mind that as well because it kind of implies that they're all corrupt. This one that's presiding over this funeral, he's got a Cadillac and he's wearing a mink robe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty funny that he would preside over a funeral while wearing a mink white robe.
Honestly, I was picturing a lot of in the images in my mind looked a lot like
Big Money Hustlers.
Big Money Hustlers, yeah.
The one line that kind of I thought was I was just like, I hadn't really thought of this. Is as for that crooked choir, I never really had known choirs for being evil or bad. Or
Yeah, fuck that choir.
Yeah, that church is pretty good, but their choir's evil.
Well, I mean, if you're
Well,
talking
he
about
burned it all down.
Catholicism, everything's complicit.
Yeah, but usually the people in the choir are victims. But
That's true.
what do I know? I only spent half my life in church.
How dare you?
The music in this is I think there's some industrial drum percussion sounds in the background.
Yeah. I do. I agree.
It sounds like a hellscape.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with Steve that the choruses are good, and I also like the "I'm going to hell and I'm knowing it well." Like that.
Yeah.
That the person singing that sounds to me like not Jay or Shaggy. I don't know. I was wondering
Jay.
if that was Legs.
It could be Legs, but I think it's Jay.
I think it might be both of them.
Cool. Any further thoughts on Welcome to the Darkness?
Well, I might as well go to jail.
Okay. If that's your decision.
I feel like, isn't that kind of an odd thing to say though? Like,
Yeah. I mean,
I know I'm going to hell.
Jail in the metaphysical sense.
And I don't have any problem showing it and going to jail. I'll take my medicine.
Yeah. I'll go to jail, fine.
There you go.
If you insist. All right, let's talk about Suicide Hotline. If you haven't taken a listen, go ahead and listen right now.
You down and I ain't got many homeboys coming around. You don't understand, so don't say you do. I swear I'll put a motherfucking slug in you. I'm the only one, the lonely one, at home alone loading a gun, thinking why not?
Why not? Why not? Okay, do have feelings.
Guys, I have some thoughts about this song. Let's start with y'all's thoughts.
Well, my thoughts are that we're recording this in May. If you're listening to it, it's probably not May anymore, but May is Mental Health Month.
Hell yeah.
And so, just want to let everybody know that the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is always available, 1-800-273-TALK. And I don't think it's cool to make light of suicidal ideation or as a real talk point.
I do also appreciate that the Genius annotation for this song does include the National Suicide Prevention, or a National Suicide Prevention number.
Nice.
So that's nice. So this song is Jay calling the suicide. Jay is playing a character that's calling the suicide hotline, and Shaggy is portraying the suicide hotline operator or person on the line, doing his very finest white guy voice.
Like a real new Shaggy voice here.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that there's some real variance in this voice as well throughout the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's sort of, Shaggy will continually interject and offer little assurances and conciliatory sounds and whatnot, supportive words throughout. So it's a neat concept as far as like a song as a conversation.
Yeah,
but
it's mostly one-sided.
So ultimately my feeling is that they are making fun. Are they making fun of like people who try to help people?
No.
You don't think that?
No.
You don't think that they're doing that?
So
Okay.
let me give you my big thought on this song, because I have some very I don't know if they're like really complicated, but I definitely have some thoughts about this song. So my thought, since this is a showcase of hell or the type of people who will go to hell, at first, when I was first preparing to listen to the song, I was worried that they were going to take a hardline stance of like people who kill themselves go to hell, because that's definitely a thing that Christians believe, or a lot of Christians anyway. I don't want to paint with that light of brush. And Steve can back me up there.
Yeah, it's very true.
So I thought that was the stance they were going to take. That is not the stance that this song takes. What I take from the song, given the song as a whole and how the song resolves, is that this particular person who called the suicide hotline is worthy of going to hell or did go to hell, because either he wants attention so badly that he's taking vital resources away from people who actually need the service, or he is a serial killer or a murderer, and serial killers or murderers, at least the ones that we know of, very often desperately crave attention, and they will put on a false front, and they'll basically like martyr themselves sort of, and put on a veneer of victimhood in order to, make people pay attention to them in any way they possibly can. And so the way the song resolves with him getting another call and answering it, and it turns out that he's got a girlfriend who's going to come over and bring him some blunts and hang out with a friend. Because at the beginning of the song, he's just talking about how lonely he is and nobody loves him and he's a loser, so he's just going to kill himself. But by the end of the song, he's talking about his murderous thoughts, and that the witch or the devil sits on his chest every night, and he's going to find somebody who's going to kill him, or he's going to kill himself. So it's sort of like he's thinking about cutting heads off with a shovel. He's gonna, get buck naked and jack off and get drunk and, all this stuff. And I just feel it's either, my reading is it's either a person who isn't actually suicidal, but is faking it to get attention and depriving other people of it, or it's someone who's truly evil who craves attention, and this is the outlet through which they're getting it. But I don't believe that the person in the song is actually suicidal, and I don't believe that the song is mocking people who are suicidal or mocking people who are trying to help people who are suicidal. But I can definitely see readings where that is the case.
Well, that just wholly blew my fucking mind, everything that you just said. I think I read it as like a lot more superficial, of just that he is a person that's struggling with this thing and he's thinking about doing it, because of all of these reasons that, society's left him behind or whatever. And so that kind of loneliness is also a theme through a lot of these tracks. this week. And so I just thought it was, that kind of, honestly, these tracks made me think of more, instead of like a connection with hell or eternal damnation or whatever. To me, it felt similar in tone of what I was thinking when we were listening to Mirror Mirror, from Twisted. And that it's just that kind of loneliness that ICP express often in their songs. That kind of is one of those things that unifies juggalos. And so I just kind of thought that they were writing a song about a loner who deals and struggles with feeling separated from society and isn't dealing with that in a mentally healthy way, and is calling this person for support, maybe not really thinking that they're going to do it. And then at the end, it clicks over and he's got back on his like regular voice or whatever. And I didn't think that was him coming back to his real self. I thought that was him putting on his veneer again,
sure.
Trying to, with his mask or whatever, going back to his regular life.
Yeah, for sure. And like, that was like, when I got all the way through the song and I heard that was how it resolved, I just started thinking like, what could this possibly mean?
Yeah, no, I love it. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also, and it also was conflicting with me, if my reading is the one that it is, it was conflicting with me of why the hotline operator stays on with him the whole time, continues to try and engage with him, tries to keep him on the phone to the very end. He's like, no, don't hang up, don't click over or whatever. And just try and engage with him. But I also felt like the advice that the operator gives, or the comments that he makes, I couldn't tell if they were trying to say something heartfelt there, or if they were making fun of it for being like hippy dippy or whatever about feelings.
See, I kind of took it more of the way Bill kind of explained it, where I didn't think, like, I think at the end, and as I processed it all, I was like, this dude's just a selfish piece of shit. I didn't even really believe, like, I like Bill, I kind of believed he didn't really want to kill himself. He's not even a serial killer. He's just like wants his way. And he sits there and he takes this person who good-heartedly is trying to help them because they're concerned. And I think partly like what Shags is saying through a lot of it is just, the people that do the hotline have specific scripts they go off of and are well trained, and they don't know those scripts. You know what I mean? So I felt like they were doing just the best they could to like be like, it almost felt more like a friend listening, and you don't really know what to say, so you're just trying to like say anything positive that pops into your mind. So I just thought like it was a song about a dude who would be so selfish that he would, like Bill said, waste resources, waste time, waste someone's time just to get what he wants, which is that attention he's craving. And then the second he really gets what he wants, his girlfriend to come over with pot. And then he's just like, he's done. Oh, I don't need this guy here anymore. I'm done. But also, like, the song, though, it was hard to listen to. Like, the music's awesome. I think Jay's flows are really rad in it. It's a really well put together song, and I liked a lot of it. I mean, just like aesthetically, like, it's just a well put together song. But when Jay is going into like how desperate he feels and the loneliness, like, that was hard to hear. Like, like, he just did a good job at that. The desperation, I don't know. I was impressed with it. I'll never listen to the song again because it made me feel bad. And I don't think that, like I agree with Bill again. I don't think they were making fun of anything. I didn't take away that, yeah, suicide will send you to hell kind of a thing. None of that. I don't know. So,
well, I'm looking at the lyrics now. I think it makes more sense, your guys' interpretation, because it was another thing I was conflicted with, that like, if we're supposed to feel a kinship with this guy because he's like a loner and outcast, Jay also kind of disrespects the guy and says, he's kind of describing him as being a piece of shit of like, my family, I don't have any family because I stole from them.
Yeah.
And they put out restraining orders against me, but I still went after them or whatever. Like, I think he's pretty clearly kind of saying that the guy's not a great dude. You're not supposed to feel like he's the protagonist here.
Yeah.
So that's awesome, man. I'm glad that we talked about it. It makes me like it a lot more. But the music in this song is fucking incredible. This is one of my favorite ICP tracks. Every time I listen to it more and more and more, I mean, I liked it more. It's a fucking jam. This fucking song completely kicks ass. The music is incredible. I just love the way it kind of builds up. Like, I don't particularly like the skit-ish kind of intro or whatever, where they're talking on the phone. But once the music kind of swells and starts, it just sounds so fucking awesome, man.
Yeah.
All right, shall we move along?
Cool.
Cool. Let's talk about California Pizza Kitchens. Talking about the fourth track on the album, which is C.P.K. So I'm looking forward to talking about some nice, hot, toasty, crispy, delicious, refreshing pizzas. If you haven't taken a listen, take a listen right now.
His nose, I jammed a butcher's knife 12 inches into his gut. He looked me right into my eyes while I was yanking it up. Preacher killers. Stop it. I got a bloody him up. Stop it.
Well, shit, that song wasn't about pizzas at all. Fuck.
Neither was it about crazy Poway kids.
Yeah, that's true. That is CPK. True.
There is a nun with fake boobs.
That's pretty crazy. She's probably from Poway. Yeah, so this is Crazy Preacher Killers, or if you prefer, Crazy Preacher Killers. So, I mean, this song's got one extremely bad slur in it that I think really brings the whole entire song down.
Yeah, they like dropped the music behind it too.
So that really sucks, and I'm glad it only happens once in the song and it's towards the end, but yeah, it's a real drag. Really not the takeaway that anyone should have, but you know, again, these are supposed to be really bad people who are singing this song, not necessarily heroes, evidenced by how inept they are. Now, so to me, the saving grace of this song, and again, the music is very good. To me, the saving grace of this song is imagining how horribly bad these guys are at their mission of killing preachers. Because Violet J says, I walked into the church dressed up as an old altar boy. And, like, one, how do you dress up as an altar boy as a grown man?
Right, so he's a big fat clown.
I just imagine, like, him, like, walking in with, like, this tiny little robe over the top of his normal clothes. And he's just, like, his face painted. And he's like, oh, I'm altar boy. And, like, in his mind, like, the preacher, like, takes him into the, you know, the confessional and, like, chops up a line of yay and oots his nose. But in reality, the preacher just like, who the fuck's this guy doing? And then Violet J just like starts trying to kill a preacher. And then at the end, the third verse is them talking about shooting for the preacher, but they keep missing and shooting other people.
Yeah.
They're up at the balcony, high on PCP and Smirnoff, shooting at all these different people, and they burn the church down. And then when they finally shoot the preacher, they both put their guns to each other's heads and take it home.
So it really is just the ending of Big Money Hustlers.
Yeah.
And then a nice little, maybe the way we wish Boondock Saints would have ended.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I'm confused here. First of all, I'm confused about a couple of things. First, I want to put a check mark next to Violent J fitting into this confession booth with this preacher. But Shaggy is he the janitor at the church?
Yes.
Because he noticed that this nun, who I guess apparently nuns aren't allowed to get breast implants or get piercings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that's written in the Bible, but
that's in there. You gotta look.
She was performing oral service on this preacher, and which Shaggy seems to have noticed while he was pushing his mop.
Yeah, push it. How else are you gonna push a mop? How's that mop gonna get pushed if you don't push it? It'll be that.
Couldn't tell you. But I love when he, I don't know what this means. Shaggy's last line is face painted fucking preacher killers gone off the Yola.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Yola is, but then the hook starts with the crooked preacher killers and he shouts, "Cola!"
Yes. Yeah. So it's probably cocaine.
Oh, Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's funny.
But it is funny, yes. So as far as piercings, Steve can definitely attest to the Bible being very explicit in the Old Testament about how the body is a temple, so you shall not make any carvings or engravings or mutilations on your body.
Mm-hmm.
So there.
It's true.
Well, I guess good to know.
You shouldn't even cut the sides of your beards.
We all done fucked it up.
God. Right.
You're also
we all
not
have at least one piercing. Wait, Steve, do you have any piercings?
He used to.
When he
pierced people for a living.
Right, you're a piercer. I guess so piercing would probably also be bad.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to get pierced if you're piercing some people.
That's mutilating your body.
Yeah, or mutilate others, yeah.
It's a genital mutilation.
You're a real mutilator.
Hey.
I was. I never even thought of that. I needed you around more, damn it.
This should have been the genital mutilators.
Guys, I would say this is the closest thing to a fun song we have this week.
Yeah.
Yep. It sure is. You know, if it didn't have that slur in there, I'd be on board.
Yeah.
Right, that's a bummer.
Hell is a real place.
I just imagine that Jay was really mad about what was going on at the time, so.
Yeah, but like, what a way to try and drive that home. And I know that he said, you know,
yeah, really.
I express my feelings in a very homophobic way.
Right.
Which, you know, there's probably an underlying reason for that.
And then we got an outro in this where it's I don't know, it's like a record scratch or something, right? Hell is a real place. In a bunch of different pitch shifted, repeating outro. And then a clock.
Part of my real life. Huh?
And then a clock, like a clock running out of steam.
And then we're gonna go to the next song, right?
Yeah.
All right. This is Truly Alone. So if you haven't taken a listen right now.
There ain't nobody making sure I'm taking all of my pills. There ain't nobody slowing me down and keeping me still. I'm truly alone. You can only be alone for so long before the man's mind is truly alone.
This is a song, guys. This is a very well crafted song, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
The music is extremely good.
Yeah.
It sets a very consistent tone. And I think we should let Steve give us as many thoughts on this song.
So this song, like I said, was in rotation on my iPad back in the day when I was listening to a lot of the other stuff I was digging in that 2005, 2006 era. And so like this song I liked because of the tone of it, and this song in a weird way was kind of a positive song for me at times. And the reason why is like the first two, like the singy song part of where he's building up to the rap, like the things he talks about, like when when I go through my, phase of feeling depressed and stuff, like, depression, like your brain does a good job of lying to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like the first two parts of those first two verses, I guess, as he's like talking about, you know, no one loving him, no one cares if he dies, no one, like all those things, like I liked to listen to that, because if I was feeling depressed, like at first I could be like, yeah, and then my logic always clicks in and like, that's not true at all. I have tons of great friends, and I have like a mom and dad that super support me, even though they disagree with like me not being a Christian. They still love me to death and accept me in their home no matter what I did. Like, so it's a lie. And so songs like this, and I think I'd mentioned it with some of the other Twisted songs, like even though they seem super depressing, they help pull me out of my depression, because like as I'm going along with it, it helps me eventually be like, those things that I'm thinking right now are not true. Mm-hmm. And then when this song goes into the last part of it, it just makes it kind of absurd. And so I liked it, because then it kind of just reminded me of like crazy ICP stuff. Just like, oh, he's out and he's sad, but he's killing people. And and not really back then taking into account that, like, I thought it was kind of interesting that, like, he, like, kills someone and he starts, like, getting sick to his stomach and crying because, like, what am I doing? But then he's, like, now he has to go with it because he's already started. And so it just, you know, I liked the song. I really liked it. And plus, I love the music. But listening to it this time through, I just, like, the things he says in the rap where he just starts going into this, now people are going to know who I am. Now people, like, I've made my mark. No one liked me, so look what I did. And I think, like, when this was written, you know, there wasn't 4chan and Reddit and people, like, coming together in internet threads talking about this and, like, delighting in people, like these are, like, almost manifestos in themselves, and people delighting in these manifestos and, like, yeah, he did it, now I'm gonna do it, kind of a thing. And so it turned really disgusting to me, and listening to it this time I was like, I don't like this. This is really gross to me. And I couldn't see it any other way after that. And I'd like to hear if you guys have a different spin on it, because, like, for me, it's just dead now. I see MRA, incels, whatever, you know, just red pill subreddit group. That's all I see now when I hear that rhyme at the end of the song. And I hate it. I just absolutely hate it.
I think you're not incorrect, because, again, I don't believe that this is a person that we're supposed to root for or is supposed to be a good person. And I think that it's possible that ICP was ahead of the curve in sort of, like, recognizing that, oh, there's a lot of really fucked up, stupid, shitty people who try to gain notoriety and try to seek for approval, or, you know, just whatever they're trying to fill whatever they're missing by doing horrible things. So I don't think that we're meant to. I think that if anything, the song is meant to lull you into, like, thinking you're supposed to identify with this person, but you're not supposed to identify with them because they're a bad person.
Yeah.
And if anything, you're supposed to feel solidarity with people who can't relate to this person, because it's like, oh, I feel a lot of those things. Oh, but I don't feel like that part of those things. Like, this is a terrible person who is using loneliness to rationalize terrible actions.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, and, well, so I was trying to think about what was going on in 2004 also. And I feel like there probably was, this was 5 years almost now after Columbine. And there, I think, might have been, I can imagine, a lot of discussion about, over the years, of the representation of media, or things that society was blaming Columbine for. And so I think, and this is before, there really, in 2004, was before the really big spike in shootings.
Yeah.
In America. And so, and Reddit was actually founded in 2005, a year after this album came out. And so I think that what I want to try to give credit to ICP is, yeah, sort of having, because they are so often the target of that negative attention, the society looks to ICP for those things, then that makes me assume that Violent J would be pretty aware of what he's being accused of.
Sure.
And so I think he would probably look to speak to that. And I could really see that as being, like, kind of what his motivation is behind this.
Yeah, and I hope I wasn't trying to I hope I didn't come across as saying that I think ICP thought that was okay.
No.
Like, painting this picture at all, you know, because I don't think that at all. Like, I agree with you guys that, like, they're like, this is bad. But I think it just surprised me so much this time. And I think my heart has just, like, everyone's just feels like so heavy with how often we're dealing with this. And it kind of surprised me. And it took away from what the song used to mean to me, and that makes me mad too, because now I don't feel like if I listen to this song I'll like remember it the way I used to, because now I'll only think of it in the heavy-hearted of just like knowing that there would be people who would listen to this song and be like, fuck yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I know that's not what they want, of course. So
well, what I think is, like, talking through it with you guys here, what I think is the most kind of fucked up thing about it is if you listen to this in 2004, you'd think like, man, what a fucked up track, somebody doing something so awful for attention. And you listen to it in 2019 and you think, what a trope, like, what a unoriginal story at this point in our history.
Yeah. I was talking to my roommate about this last night and just being like, in 2004, 2005 and 6, when I was really listening to this song, like this song was an escape, like this, like, oh, that's crazy. And as bad as things are, boy, it could be worse kind of a thing. And, I don't know, like just the prophecy's been fulfilled.
Yeah, well, we had texted a little bit back and forth before I had a chance to listen to these tracks earlier last week, and so I was particularly interested in listening to this one from some of the things that you had said, and I really dig all those points. I do also agree that it's a really well put together song. I like the music on this one a lot as well. It's weird because I wouldn't think that I would be such a fan of the kind of sing-songy first couple verses, but when I listen to it in the context that like what I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, like this theatrics of it, and trying to like have the headphones on and sit down and be attentive to it, it kind of takes you along the story, and I appreciate that that effort.
Yeah, it's got some real good bass.
Yeah, this one's like all really reverbed and distorted and muddy sounding. It's like pretty dark.
Yeah,
it's real like. It's like really grimy sounding to me.
You're right.
Which is good. And I encourage everybody to go to the Genius annotations for this track. The first two have some. It's a photo set of Violent J. Sitting on a porch, I guess maybe in his yard. I don't know.
That's very good.
But two different angles, and he's just kind of wistfully sitting there with his hands in his big leather jacket.
My thought was like, oh, I think someone wanted to do like that joke, like different, like basically it's different wording but with a different J picture, and like he's talking about how he's alone and my assumption was like, oh, someone was gonna do this joke for every line in the song but they got bored or got distracted or something.
Okay, but that annotation was from, I'm not gonna say this dude's name right. It's Dirty Dylan E, right? It's not Dirty Dylane. Dirty Dylan E. I'm guessing that dude.
Dylane.
Dirty Dylane. I think it's Dirty Dylan. Whatever. But this dude, he follows us on Instagram. He comments on some of our stuff.
Sweet. Let us know what your thought process was, buddy.
Word. I love it. It's the good 1-2 shot. He's so lonely.
He's truly alone. One could say.
They say a man can only be alone for so long before the man's mind is gone.
I have heard that. Is that true? Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
One thing I want to say is that I feel like even though this album is not as good, and maybe I only think it's not as good so far because it's not as fun. I feel like this is some pretty strong writing from Violent J. These 4 tracks that we've listened to this week.
Yeah, and as I said, like I think when thinking about it, of like them having to make this, like feeling that they had to make this album and like not necessarily wanting to do it, but then understanding like we have to be on theme throughout and we can't have it be fun because hell isn't fun. Like that's some pretty impressive writing given like their entire career, and how hard they've worked to like be clever and creative and fun and inclusive and celebratory, and to just like have an album where they cut off all of that.
Well, I think they are demonstrating a lot of creativity, on this album so far, and even like in Violent J's delivery. So it's so strange to me now because his voice is like super blown out, right? Now he sounds completely different. I don't know if he's just changing out his style, or if that's because his voice is damaged. But you can almost hear it start to change in Suicide Hotline, he's got that a little bit more raspy tone in his voice. I feel like C.P.K is like old school ICP delivery, like with their same like da 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 da, like, you know, having that same rhythm. And then he really mixes it up a lot in Truly Alone with the singing and the rapping and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think he's doing some good work here.
Sure.
Looking forward to hearing the rest of the album.
For sure. And the next time we are together, we will talk about the next part of the album.
You know what? I kept trying to say something. I realized I was muted.
Oh, no.
I kept going, why are they interrupting me? But Bill's point to this is not a fun album, and it's absolutely not. But, I mean, just only because I know Bowling Ball so well, that's actually kind of a fun song.
Okay.
That song's pretty absurd and funny. So,
well, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, I don't know how many are we going to try to listen to for next time?
I don't know. The next 4, I closed the track list.
Well, the next 4 are Every Day I Die, The Night of the 44. Finally excited to get to that.
Yeah.
The Witch, and Bowling Balls.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that'll be good 4 tracks. We don't
I actually
know when we'll
know
get to
all
them.
those songs. I might know this album better than I thought I did.
Nice. Well, we will get there, gentlemen. I'm not sure when, but we will. In the meantime, please keep Ryan and Steve company by sending them emails to dimcarnival@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at dimcarnival. We always look forward to hearing from you guys. So thanks to everybody for everything, and we'll talk to you at some point. And until then, I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Ryan.
And we're truly together.